this thing. Let's see. Mute.
Oh,
Okay, so. Oh, so Sarah up? Yep, okay. So, hello. So, this is technically the first episode of OSS's dinner chatter, essentially, for the FFTCG card game, or FF card game, whichever terminology. I am here with Haru S.
Hello.
Yep. Quinn
hello.
and Yuki, though they're doing some other stuff currently right now, so they'll chime in when they need to. So apart from that, so today's topics, or one of them we'll start with, is Haru S is from France.
Oh,
Yes.
oh, caveman, Yuki, make food. Fire, fire.
So there was a tournament actually just recently.
Yes.
What was it? Was it like a type of regional there, Haru S, that was in
Okay.
France?
So no, basically it was the French nationals that
Okay.
was meant to uh, represent like the end of the season. So it was a qualifier event. You had to be qualified to attend this tournament. You had
Okay.
to be qualified through regionals. And there's a lot to say about it. First of all, I'd like to say that the scene in France, the FFTCG scene in France is very competitive. We have a lot of very good players. So it was a tournament that I was really looking forward to, as well a lot of players.
You don't have to get into too much if
Okay.
it's whatever
Yeah.
details, but if you want to get into like the
Okay,
bullet
later,
points, if
later.
it's too
Yeah.
whatever, that's completely fine.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So should I start by just talking about it or
Yeah,
yeah.
if you want, yeah, that, and like I
Okay.
said, if you don't have to get into too much detail if it's a little iffy, so just
No, it's fine, it's fine.
okay.
So yeah, so it's just that as I said, it was a tournament for which you had to be qualified for, and there was a little bit of like should I say maybe drama at the beginning because like it seemed that Square Enix didn't really want to pay too much attention to that. So first, it was announced that the tournament had to be like a paid tournament. So there was a lot of like astonishment among the community because everyone thought, wait, I qualified for this, I earned my place and now I have to pay. This seems really weird. And also like the pricings weren't that great. Square Enix didn't like provide like almost nothing. So like people were really not happy about it because I mean with such a tournament with such hype, such like good players, there should be like some really good rewards. But at the end of the day, things got a little bit better, so the tournament wasn't like a paid tournament anymore. And yeah, and the pricings were like a little bit better, but honestly, it wasn't that great. Like for example, one of the winner wins like an Opus 15 display box. Top 4 is something like a promo A004. I think it's the one gold base versus Cecil, which is worth about like $150.
Oh,
And
that's
yeah,
not
yeah.
bad.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. And a playmat that is worth something like $150 as well. The playmats of the nationals. So it's not. It's okay. It's okay pricing, but like as I said, this is like for the winner or for like top 8, top 4. Like you have to be really really good to win those things. And the important thing is that the tournament was organized in a city like south of France, which doesn't have like a high-speed train. So it was
Oh.
yeah. So yeah, that's it was very difficult to it's very difficult to access this city, and like people have jobs and everything, so a lot of good players actually like didn't attend
Hmm.
because they simply couldn't. And so when you factor in the fact that I mean it's really expensive to go there, and like a lot of players and most of the good players are based in Paris.
Okay.
So and Paris is like kind of in the north, so it's very complicated to go there.
Yeah, isn't it
So
kind of like it's east of Central Europe, if I'm not mistaken, like near the water, isn't it?
France.
Yeah.
No, no, we are really like the west of Europe. The we are Western Europe.
Oh
It's
right,
not the
my
most
directions
central.
are messed up right now. I was like,
No,
wait,
it's
oh
fine.
no, that makes sense. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So.
Yeah, and like yeah, and so it was like it wasn't easy to. It was really expensive to go there, so you have to pay for a hotel, Airbnb. So even if you win the prizes, which is like not that likely, at the end of the day, you're probably losing money, you know.
Um,
So yeah, so I thought that for such an event, Square Enix could have put like more, more effort, like provide better pricings and everything, and yeah, it was and also it was crazy. Like a lot of people wanted to watch the thing, but there was no live stream. I
really?
mean,
Wow.
yeah, because like Square Enix, it seems like they didn't really care. So we know we have to wait for the replays, but like I feel like it's really a big missed opportunity because like if you do a nice live stream, you get more attention. Like maybe some people will go watch the stream that don't know the game and like will get into the game and just like yeah generate more revenue for the game. But it's yeah.
Hmm.
It
Yeah,
is what
the
it
amount.
is. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, here in the States, usually the amount of like content that we create around like the Final Fantasy game, I think is like underappreciated. Like
Yeah.
a
Mhm.
majority of those competitions, I mean, if you're looking to be a competitive player, watching
Mhm.
some of these really amazing players,
Mhm.
in the heat of the moment, like their thought process and watching like, how they think about stuff, or the interactions that they're doing that's like invaluable knowledge.
Yeah. Mm.
So being able to like also on like a more casual sense, being able to see like these really top tier players like play with some of your favorite cards, that like really helps sell the game. So I'm surprised that there wasn't you know some sort of representation in that regard.
Mm.
But that tournament aside,
Yes.
I think on FFdex, the
Yes.
tournament results were posted,
Yes.
and a lot of the deck construction that we saw, in that particular tournament was very, very
Interesting.
interesting. Do you want to
Yeah.
talk about some of the stuff that you noticed?
Of course. Yeah. So first of all, I think that something that everyone noticed is like the winner won with a monk deck, with a monk's deck. That's I really I really didn't expect that.
Hmm.
Um, that's something that probably seemed to be like out of fashion in the recent
Yeah.
weeks because of Machery, because of Morse, because all of those things. But in the end, it really shows that if you're a good player, you're gonna win.
Yeah,
And
it kind of it definitely shows that like the diversity of decks
yes, it's crazy.
particularly is like still very open. Like it's a very
It's
open
crazy.
meta.
Yeah,
A good pilot can definitely outpilot
yeah,
some of the most competitive decks. I mean, the card that Monks kind of runs around is the 4CP Ursula from Opus, I believe it was Opus 11. Um,
yes, yes. She even
and
has
it
her
kind of
full
has
art.
like Yes, it has a very similar ability to kind of Stern Leonis and Machery in that, you can activate these triggers based on, devotion to monks that you have on the field. So it kind of turns her into like a super responsive kind of Earth style deck with plenty of recursion and removals. So um, I can definitely see how that deck would like immediately go towards the end because I think when the Opus 11 meta was out, Ursula was pretty much rampant. Like that deck was like super hard to defeat. So it's very interesting that it took a hiatus until this tournament.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Very interesting.
But I have to say that I saw it played almost every week at my locals. It's a deck that is quite popular and in France. And also I see Ursula and obviously Sophie and a few monks being played like in a Water Earth deck, the one that the finalists played. So it's a deck like with Machiri, Regia, Perom, Ursula, and Sophie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're talking about the second place deck.
Yes.
That was piloted by Nicholas, I think.
Yes.
He was running
yes.
like an Earth, Water, Rydia slash
Yes.
like monks list, which was
And
very
by the-
interesting
yeah.
as well.
And by the way, he won the re-raise in Munich with this deck,
Hmm.
with this deck and Skyfarers.
Yeah, this list is like super unique in that it
Yeah.
really does abuse like Rydia's triggers to be able to cast free summons, but more so
Yeah.
than that, it really gets like cards like Sarah Mobius and Sophie to really put in huge amounts of damage very, very quickly. So it's very unique that these styles of decks are being played in France. I mean,
Yeah.
let's see. Did you happen to see any of the gameplay with the Sky Pirates list or similar Sky Pirates list? Because even the Sky Pirates list is very unique. I think it's running both kites.
Well, for you it's a unique list, but this is actually the first Sky Pirates list that I saw, and almost the only one, because this is the one that Nicola plays, and Nicola, who's a great guy by the way, he's a really really good player. I think he came fourth in the World Championships before COVID, in the last World Cup. So and he's a really really good Sky Pirates player.
Quinn.
Yes.
And yes.
Can you repeat all that again?
Oh, we were talking about the Sky Pirates list and how unique it is for Americans to see this list because it runs particularly cards that like kites and like the 2CP forward Fran from Opus 10. Very unique cards.
Well, yeah, the Fran, for me it makes just like so much sense to play it, so much sense to play it. I mean, like what I do when I sometimes like try to train this deck is like I try to have Balche, and in the best of scenario I have a Fran in my break zone, so maybe I use Fran and another card or backups to pay the CP for Balche, and with Balche I bring back a Fran, and then it's a really really dangerous combo because like she gains like 1000 for every Sky Pirates, and very quickly.
Yeah, no, she's very very potent, especially with like the size and power that she brings to the field. I just
yeah.
No, I agree wholeheartedly. One of the other decks that we were noticing within this particular list, I mean, outside of Storm, but I mean, do you want to talk about how like Avalanche particularly did well?
Yes. Avalanche is a really popular deck here. I see it a lot at the locals, and one of the reasons is that it's a really cheap deck. It's a starter deck for which you have to add maybe Kodaj or Amaterasu, of course, and Miss Dragon. So relatively, it's not that expensive, and it's such a good deck. But I think that in this meta with Macheri, honestly, I feel like it's really good that it came like something like eighth. I think it's still really because like Avalanche against Mashiri, it's really hard to win. But now that
Yeah.
Mashiri is banned, I feel like we're gonna see way more Avalanche because like it's so hard to play against this deck, especially like here in France. I feel like a lot of people like to play Wind, whether it's Sky Palace or like Storm or like Monowind. And it's kind of like slow decks. So when you play Avalanche and you just like play all of those forwards that deal all of those damages, it's almost impossible to. Well, I'm not gonna say impossible, but it's really hard to do something about it. So I
The
feel like
tempo, yeah, the tempo that I noticed from a majority of these like Avalanche lists, I mean their curve, they can run, I don't know, maybe one or two backups on the whole throughout the whole entire game and still have
of course, yeah, you don't need more
complete
than that.
control. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you would love to see like all five backups, but if you never get into
No.
them, like I don't think Avalanche particularly suffers from it. I mean, cards like the 4CP legendary Barrett
Mm,
from Opus 14 that allows you to kind of cycle your hand and your
yeah.
graveyard for the
Yeah.
particular Avalanche pieces you need makes it so that, removing key Avalanche members, becomes even more problematic because then you have to worry about them like, coming back with haste and then
Plus,
also
also reduce
swinging.
costs for like one cost to get them out.
Exactly.
One cost
I
is
know.
crazy. Crazy.
One CP 7Ks that also have haste and like a numerous amount of really relevant abilities like breaking dull characters or tutoring or drawing cards or cheating in
And
forwards.
dude,
I
like
mean, look,
I think it's Jessie. She can play like 6 TP squad for free if you
Yep.
have her in hand. It's crazy.
Yeah, if you have that Clown hand and then you do the thing and then she just casts any card named Cloud essentially.
Yeah,
yeah,
any
I
card
mean
and play.
that's a lot of tempo, especially if you are running cards like I believe the list that was in the tournament was running Noctis, which really does enjoy watching party attacks because it makes
Oh, that
even
one.
more of the value from
No,
what these
like
forwards are already doing.
Noctis
You know,
makes so much sense in
Oh
this deck.
yeah,
god.
it's really powerful,
Mm.
especially if you get it to resolve maybe one or two triggers.
Of course, yeah.
If you played Noctis down and then you dropped a bunch of these Avalanche members, if they
Mm.
even swing twice, I mean, you're getting multiple triggers onto the stack during combat.
Yeah.
It's
Mm.
very difficult after a while to keep up. So I definitely, with the removal of Mashri from the format, Avalanche will definitely be a deck to keep, I think, our eye
I
on.
agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
outside of that, the lists particularly looked fairly strong. There was a
Yeah.
Sorays deck, there was a Dragoons
Of
deck,
course.
there was
Yeah.
an ice, an ice lightning. God bless them for trying. Uh, the, I mean,
Xyz was
the
there?
yes, ice. I believe it was Tom. Tom was
Mhm.
playing a
Avalanche
ice
and Ice.
lightning.
That's really strange.
Yeah, it's
I like it. I like it. I like
it's
how.
it's a unique.
Yeah. I like that.
It's a unique deck, but it did well,
Yeah, it did
and
well, yeah.
well enough to get to top 8. So,
I bet, yeah.
but yeah, I
Mm.
can definitely see how the French scene is very strong. I mean, a lot of these
Yeah.
deck lists definitely look scary to play against. I mean,
Yeah.
they even had Earth Wind Mill, which was that infinite combo deck we were talking about
Yeah,
last time,
yeah. It's
which
oh
came
my
in
god.
top
Oh my god.
3. I mean,
Yeah.
that deck is such a pain to play against, but I mean, if you get it to work, you get it to work. I mean,
And the guy who played this deck was actually the finalist at the re-raise in Munich.
makes sense.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So
yeah, I think his name was Matthew Gomez.
yeah, mature, yeah, mature, yeah, mature.
Yeah,
Mature.
uh,
Yeah,
Matthew. Yeah, he.
yeah,
I mean, this list looks pretty solid, very scary. I
yeah.
mean,
He's a
lots
really
of
good player.
recursion.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would, I would be, I would be pulling my hair out if I had to play against this deck.
Oh
Definitely
yeah,
for
it's
sure.
really complicated to play that. You know, like oh when you do the thing with Zoo and like oh my god, and Luminous Pima. Like basically your chance to win is to deal damages early and hope that the damage will be like something like Zoo or Chilika will be amazing.
Yeah.
Or like
I mean,
yeah.
you would really be praying for those cards. The problem that I see with it is like Fiona is just so consistent. I think the list ran like 3 Fionas, so the probability of
Yeah.
being able to tutor into the cards that you would need
Yeah.
to make sure that your engine would continue to work. I mean,
Mm.
with all that activation, you might be able to do it twice within a turn, and to be able to tutor twice is like really, really big, because it means that your hand is being set up so that
Mm.
if they can't kill you quick enough, you get the infinite off, and then you just extend the hand. So it's definitely a very, very powerful deck. I can definitely see why it came in top 4.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
But that's cool. I'm definitely
Okay.
glad to hear your
Mm.
perspective on it. We'll definitely have to talk more about some of the matches that you see at your particular locals. Is there particularly a deck that you like to pilot, like a style of play that you like to do?
No, me that I like to play.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So recently in the past weeks, I was kind of like playing, as you know, Mono Water
Uh-huh.
with my Sherry and Tidus and everything. So
I think I faced that
Very
deck
strong.
online, so.
yeah, so it's over now. And so in the past few weeks, I've seen a lot of, as I said, I've seen a lot of people kind of like rehearsing for the French nationals. So I've seen a lot of people playing Mono Water. I've seen a lot of people playing like the Earth, Wind, Mill deck. Mature, he was bringing this. I've seen a lot of people playing Monks, Avalanche. There was a guy, it was funny, he did something like he wanted to play Avalanche. And he added the Vikings, you know, the ones like that cost like 1 CP or nothing.
Uh-oh.
Uh-huh.
And you know, yeah, so just to have a lot of followers, and you know what he did? Like he played like Ashmal.
To make them all
Yeah,
the same job.
Oh,
Interesting,
Ashmal.
interesting.
So it was I really like that. I really like that idea. So yeah,
that's very cool.
Yeah, Sky Pirates, of course, and Mono Wind, and a little bit of Kingslave. But I noticed that in the past few weeks, I've seen less and less Kingslave. I used to see it all of the time at the beginning of Opus 16.
Not to play devil's advocate, but why do you
Yeah.
think Kingsglaive is maybe taking a side right now?
Because of I think it was because of Machery, because it's really hard, I think, to play against Machery of Kingslave. You just bounce back the things and yeah, and it's a deck that had a really good matchup against Mors. You know, the early Mors without Machery, when like they used to play like Kirin and stuff like that.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Moors is Soiree members here in the States.
Sorry, yeah. So
but, yeah, that's interesting. So I mean, with the upcoming ban of Machery kind of looming in the distance, do you think like decks like Kingsglaive might find like a resurgence? Do you think like maybe they're still too slow? How do you feel about them?
Well, there are two things to keep in mind. Like now we like as I said, the French nationals was like kind of like the end of the season, so there are no more major tournaments. So the only thing like people are focused now is like Opus 17. So
that makes sense.
Yeah. So is Kingsglaive gonna be perfect? So the question would be like, Machery would have been banned, and we are still in Opus 16, and will Kingsglaive still have a strong chance in Opus 16? Yes. But the relevant question is like, is Kingsglaive gonna have a good chance in Opus 17 without Machery? And for me, I think that it's way too early to say, but I would say honestly, I don't have much hopes because like because of the spoilers that we've seen. We've seen like
That's a great segue. Do you want to start talking about maybe some of those spoilers that we've seen?
Yeah, maybe we can talk about it now or later as well.
Yeah, we can talk about spoilers.
Yeah.
Okay.
do you want to perhaps let's choose one of the spoilers to talk about.
Okay. Maybe
How about
each one of us picks one and we can talk about it.
Yeah, that sounds great. So,
No.
Digger, do you want to go first?
Sure, yeah. Let's go
Yeah.
up here. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-da. I'm actually going to choose Hope, to be honest.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Do you want to read him for those who might not know what he does?
So, Hope is a 4-cost, Category 13 win backup. So, when he enters the field, you reveal a top card of your deck. If it's a character, add it to your hand. If it's a Category 13 character, activate Hope. Also activate Hope. He's also a common, which is pretty good. I would consider that a rare ability, but sure.
Yeah, so 4 CP to possibly net yourself maybe 3 CP worth of value, because the minute he activates, he's able to particularly
Honestly,
tap 4
I think of it as a 1 CP because you're pitching 2 or paying whatever to get him out. You're getting back that other card that still counts as 2 CP. But if it's a 13 character, you untap him, so it's really just 1 CP at that point.
Okay, that's a fair analysis. So what particularly, I mean, obviously the types of decks that you would probably want to see this in are Category 13 decks, but I mean, outside of that, that kind of alludes to the idea that 13 might be particularly getting quite a bit of support this set.
Which,
I mean, how do you feel particularly about that? What do you think we might see alongside of this card?
Well, there's the new Noel.
yeah, the new Knoll and the new Knoll for Wind.
Yeah.
Sorry, you mentioned that, Haru, and I was like, oh no, oh no. But
Yeah.
sorry.
So particularly having a new way to particularly play, like 13 and Wind, that might also give like way to like maybe new tutors within 13, which is wonderful to have. I mean, I don't play titles, so I don't particularly know how this would fit in there, but for constructed, definitely having more 13 characters I think would be beneficial.
Title will make, because I know I dabble in title a little bit more than most of the other locals around my area.
Sure.
So Tile 13 has always been decent comparatively to 7 and 14 and all that stuff, right? And 8. 8's primarily supported via title. It's weird, but oh well.
Cool.
But looking at that Hope, pun coming in the way. Looking at that card, there's hope that'll get better.
Very nice. Very
So
nice.
sorry, I'm like, okay, I had to do it.
It's quite alright.
So, which is actually going to make some of my own locals very happy because they love 13.
Yeah. Okay.
So they're like, yay, I can play a 13 title deck even better. Or if they're wanting to play it in standard, which they want, this will possibly help with that in some way or another. Either they want to play their favorite character or otherwise.
And
Yeah. Oh no, I was gonna say, go ahead, Haru. What were you gonna say?
So, yeah, I just gonna say, talking about 13 and this Hope. I don't know about you guys, but I really love the new Lightning, the one in the box, in the
Yes.
promo. So
Yes,
maybe
yes, yeah.
we could do something with it, you know.
Do you want to, for those of you who may or may not know, do you want to read the new Lightning?
Actually,
I
don't
have
have access to that.
my face, but in Japanese, so
That's
I'm
okay.
not gonna. I'm not gonna.
Well, we can save that for a different podcast.
No, wait,
Yeah.
wait. I'm just gonna Google it. And...
Sure.
I mean, give it time. One of the U.S. Japanese players in Japan will probably translate it, give or take a little bit.
Sure.
Okay, so CP4, it's an EX burst. When lightning attacks, choose one forward other than lightning, you may return it to its owner's hand.
Yes.
For a cost of 1, you can put the 2 cards of your deck into the break zone, choose one forward, delete, or activate it. You can only use this arbitrary button.
Oh.
And by the way, the artwork is just like fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about the
Specifically
promo
because
from the anniversary box, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought you
Yep.
said something new. Okay, yeah.
So that being the case, I mean, this is like a very viable card. This new lightning and this hope might be a very valuable combo, specifically because not only do you know, immediately find the card for, the 13 engine that you're looking for, but then you immediately have the 1 CP to be able to use or dedicate to this new lightning's ability. So I could definitely see the synergy there being pretty strong.
Yes, but the problem, as you said, like we talked about, like this hope. Okay, the lightning. Now, well, that's like 3 category 13 cards. Like we need way more than that to to build the deck around it. Like.
Yeah, well, I guess
So
that's the surprise of,
yeah,
waiting to see what they particularly will
yeah.
spoil
So
next.
yeah, so if that's the thing. It's way too early, but if they only add like another 1 or 2 good cards from 13, I don't see how it can be viable because like Kingslave, for example, has like 50 almost 50 15 category 15 cards that are really good and work together, but now it'll be too light, I think.
Hmm.
And
Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
yeah, and you have
Haru,
yeah.
oh, I
No,
was gonna
so
say,
yeah, yeah.
do you want to read maybe one of the other spoiler cards that you
Yeah.
particularly thought were good?
But before that, I want to say also, like talking about 13, like
Sure.
some of the best 13 cards I think are like the Odin, the summons,
Hmm.
and those are like lightning cards.
Yes.
So hope is wind, noble is wind. So if you want, you see like that's also something to talk about if you want like make some good synergy. I don't know, it's gonna be tough. But we'll see, as you said, we will see. It will depend on the
Yeah,
result.
the
Yeah.
color identity of
Mm.
where a majority of the cards for Final Fantasy 13 are kind of split between multiple elements. So
Yeah.
definitely trying to hone that down
Mm.
into maybe 2 or even, you know, one particular package that,
Mm.
abuses 13 characters. Um, we'll definitely have to wait and see what that looks like. But I definitely, I remember maybe in Opus, I want to say like 6 or 7, there were a bunch of category 13 cards kind of floating about in these decks. So they were strong then, so let's hope that they'll be strong now.
Yeah, because like Kingslave has only lightning, as I said. Soiree, it's not a problem because you have Shinju. Avalanche, it's earth fire. So even Final Fantasy 8, even though it's not really played, but it's ice and maybe fire. So like you see, like because like Hope, the backup,
Yes.
if you really want to maximize the card, you really need to have a lot of category 13 characters in your deck, otherwise Hope is not gonna activate. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah, for sure, you would definitely require a bit of deck construction around the 13 engine. So, I mean, for sure, we definitely will have to, uh, you know, be positive and see whether or not the set reflects that. I mean, we have gotten sets before where, they give us cards that, within that set aren't very good, but, within the next
later,
set or the set
yeah,
after
exactly,
that, they release more things that, work more effectively with those cards.
Polka, if I may.
Yeah, FFB and Folka was definitely, I think, a surprise for a lot of people when they found out how many cards worked with FFB. So, do you want to pick one of
Yes.
the next spoilers? And then we
Okay,
can talk
this is
about
gonna be really tough because like there's so many exciting spoilers to talk about. But
Sure.
as I'm kind of a water player, I would pick my favorite. I think it's Maki.
Sure. All right. Do you want to read it for everybody?
Maki definitely, yes. Okay, so 3 CP forward, water, Maki the phantasm. The job it's important. It's dual horn / ninja. It's an FFTA 2 character. And so 7k power. the ability is the opponent's forwards enters the field dull. And this is for me really interesting and especially related to the other spoilers. If you control a card named Alice, the Answer Sold, Maki the Phantom gains 2k power. Yeah. When Maki the Phantasm enters the field, choose one drop dual horn in your break zone. You may pay X. If its cost is X, play it onto the field. So this brings the other card that you absolutely have to talk about if you want to talk about Maki. It's his friend Alice, the Ensorcelled. So it's a 2 CP water forward as well. No, not as well, but 2 CP but 7k as well.
Yes.
It's a dual horn. So this is important because supposedly there are only 2, but
Yes.
I'm not specialized in the Final Fantasy Tactics lore, but some people told me that apparently there may be another 2 characters that have the dual horn job. But yeah, but Alice, so this one is crazy as well. She enters the field dull, and she does not activate during your active phase. If you control Maki, she gains 2k, just like Maki. And when she attacks, your opponent selects one forward they control, put it into the break zone. So like Atomos. But
Yes.
she does not activate. But there are ways to activate characters, like Polka.
Very true.
In water. Yeah.
Where we can discard summons to activate a forward and a backup. Yeah.
And as I said, lightning.
Yes.
Or if
Actually,
you're running a wind stuff, you can arbitrarily run the old no too.
Yeah, no, of course, yeah. If you run water wind, which I think water wind will see a lot of action, I think. And so yeah, Maki for me is a card that I'm really looking forward to use, especially related to like the other like I think bigger spoilers of this set is Hien, the samurai.
Yes. Yeah, so we briefly talked about Hien during one of our chit-chats, but I can definitely see the synergy amongst like these Dullahan cards. It'll definitely be interesting to see how they evolve, which element they particularly join up with, or maybe they go solo. I mean, it'll definitely be interesting to see how they kind of play amongst the upcoming pool of cards from the set. Because definitely in like you would want to run those in a constructed
Yes.
format specifically. I mean, like limited or sealed or draft. That's going to be a really difficult combo to pull off. But definitely amongst constructed decks, those 2 cards would definitely, they're a match made in heaven. So, how about you, Digger? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, it's okay.
I was gonna say, Digger, how do you feel about these particular cards? Like, would you kind of see them within like wind packages? Would you think like maybe, mono water could make it work all by itself? How do you feel?
Well, the card that Haru mentioned, I think it's up here. Let me just see. Here, where's the other ones? Unless I missed. Oh, I'll just look on a different page. I'm trying to find the one that you were talking about, the Haru, the one that has everything come in dull.
It was definitely yes. It was spoiled recently. I would say like within like the last week.
Yeah, that's what I'm just looking for.
I'm gonna post it.
Yeah.
I posted it in the general.
Oh, in the general, okay. 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 So I've noticed a couple things. Dallas, the whatever, and Sword Souls or whatever. One of the dual jobs as a summoner. Aces for me.
Oh yeah, I didn't notice that. It's a summoner.
Yeah. The other thing is that she's a cheaper version of Ultimisia from set 1 or 2.
Oh, I don't know this guy.
It's the old legendary. So what Ultimisia is a 5 costs 8 or 9k. Oh, I'm gonna have to actually bring it up on FFdex and Reader specifically. Do. I can spell. Okay. So yeah, so from set 1 legendary, it's the Cydia art. 5 cost water, 9k lead for blah blah blah. All forwards other than Ultimecia enter the field dull. Okay. Her special is pitch, obviously pitch her with and pay 3 water. Freeze all the forwards other than Ultimecia. You don't have to tap her for it. But the card that you just mentioned looks like a cheaper version of Ultimecia in a way.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, like it comes in. So what I'm thinking is that she'll be good in not only a couple other fringe decks, but also ice water. Because here, so how I looked at her, I was like, oh, so her, Giantina from Final Fantasy 15. Ice forward 3 costs 7k. All forwards your opponent all dull forwards your opponent controls lose their abilities. Okay. And then you have the Sid, like the newer Sid, that says all forwards basically enter the field ability, doesn't trigger. So if they have extra abilities, they can't really do it. So you're basically, in a way, water ice locking them out. And you have to kind of work extra hard to deal with it.
It's really interesting. Yeah, it's something to. I'm so excited for this. Yeah, there's so many things to try. Yeah, and I hope that ice will you see more like light. Will be more popular. Because, well, but yeah, with water, yeah.
Cause I'm looking at this because I've tried that ice comes in dull, everything else loses abilities, etc. But some of the key cards were too expensive to get out in time. I see her as a good out with that rather than waiting for everything else. Because an ice water with dark lockout, sure.
Yeah, and you have like so many summons that in ice that interact with like dull characters like Zalera.
Oh yeah, Zalera. That thing just doesn't target, so it's just like, hey, I got Thanos. It's like, I don't care, it's dying. What? I don't target. Get rid of it.
Yeah, now that I think about it, like Zalera with like all dull forwards, like
loser. Yeah,
that's.
It's interesting as well because I may be a summon like aggro player, but I can look at this going, this could be good in a possible left field ice water control deck. This could be nuts.
Yeah, but a problem I would have with that is that, well, if you want to play both of the dual hand characters, maybe in your case you only want to play Maki to have the dull effect. But if you want to play both of them, so Maki to have like the dull effect, and Alice to have the kind of the Atomos 3 CP water effect, you probably like really will need to have Folka with you. And Folka, I think it's really complicated to play her if you don't have water summons. So if you're gonna play a water ice, that's gonna be a lot less bullets for Folka. And
very true.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the devotion of Volka's like ability really does require the sheer amount of like summons that you have to kind of build around. But without cards like Mashuri anymore, those decks, I mean, decks like for example like Ice Water Terra that particularly ran quite a bit of ice and or water summons might be able to, you know, abuse cards like Volca again, or maybe give some life to those particular cards, but it really depends on, you know, how the meta shifts.
Yeah, I feel like maybe Maya, if you add Maya, and so that you can like you make use of like the big 6 CP summons like Remora or like 6 CP Leviathan. So yeah, but yeah. And also one last thing is that if you do Ice Water, that's also less targets for maybe it's less of a problem, but there's going to be less targets for Sidra.
Very true. Yes.
Yeah.
So we might actually find that Sildra might take a little bit of a dip because, I mean, if these decks particularly are trying to find these combos like aggressively, I mean, Sildra might be reduced to, instead of like a 3 of like it was in Mono Water, but it might be reduced to like a, 2 or
See,
even 1 of in deck. Yeah.
honestly, well, I don't know. It's too early to speak, but if like, and also by the way, we had the new 1 CP monster, the water, which seems like an amazing card. So if we still have other like good water cards, I would like definitely like still play 3 Yuna backups, the 2 CP ones, and 3
Yes.
Sidras without a doubt.
Yeah. So
yeah.
on that note, for those in the audience who may or may not know, there's a new water monster that was
Yeah.
spoiled recently. It's a 1 CP monster from Mobius.
And
I
11
believe it's
technically.
called Kudav. And when Kudav enters the field, your opponent selects one forward of cost 2 or less they control, and they put it into the break zone. So very akin to cards like Atomos or Fanfrit. And it has a secondary ability where you can pay 2 water and 3 generic and tap this monster to put Kudav into the break zone and choose one forward your opponent controls. Your opponent puts it on the top of its owner's deck, which is also another type of removal. So,
Top or bottom?
it specifically says top or bottom, yes.
Yeah.
So that being the case, if you never wanted to see it, you just put it on the bottom of their deck. If you're going to swing in for damage, you can put it on the top of their deck and they take it as damage. So, I mean, very, very interesting form of removal. Definitely useful for getting around problematic boards like the ones that Ice Water might be wanting to create. So, definitely the meta with monsters may still not be something that we'll see specifically, but definitely a card that to keep our eye on. So let's see. Let's jump to another spoiler card that we have. How about I'll read Harley. So Harley is a 2 CP backup. She's a secretary. She's from category 4. Her ability reads: tap Harley, put her into the break zone. Each player discards a card, and at the end of the turn, each player draws a card. You can only use this ability during your turn. So I particularly like this card quite a bit, because the ability is kind of not conditioned on the discard. So you can technically use this as filtering from your hand. You could use it to technically draw cards, which is wonderful, filling up backup lines. I mean, I don't know particularly how often you guys have played like Rydia decks, but because this is a category 4, I mean, it fits right into
that's exactly what I thought about.
Rydia packages that basically want to make sure that she gets devotion and those counters on her. So this is a wonderful way of making sure that, let's say you really need a summon for Rydia's ability to cast, you can crack this back up on the stack, or at the end of the turn, and then draw yourself a card so that maybe next turn you'll be 1 card closer into your deck. And then again, if you wanted to, you could replay this Harley backup, add even more counters to Rydia. So I mean, I specifically like this card quite a bit. I mean, its ability seems very fun. Ice right now kind of has a weird space for a backup line. It's not really one or the other. Like, they don't really have like a Tyro quite yet, but cards like this specifically give me hope that they are looking at Ice's backups and making sure that Ice eventually will get to the point where their backup line is just as consistent as some of the other elements like Earth or Water.
By the way, since you said that it's a category 4 actor, which is, I agree, is a really interesting thing. What do you think then about Edward, Opus 5, VCP backup, category 4 as well?
Yeah, the discard Edward. Yeah, so that Edward is definitely a very, very for the longest time I would almost consider that like a no-brainer in all ice decks because it does everything that ice wanted to do. You know,
Yeah.
it's a backup that comes in, makes your opponent discard a card, and then adds like a veil of protection where sometimes, if your opponent's going to cast something that maybe is going to kill one of your forwards, you can just outright use the Edward special and cancel it. I used to run that backup like quite consistency when I was playing ice. I mean, I loved that backup, so seeing this new Harley kind of gives me hope that, maybe that card will kind of, see a little more resurgence. Who knows, maybe we'll get an even more useful Edward in this set, but it definitely is nice to see the variety of, backup lines, especially in Ice, because Ice could use all the help that it needs. All right, well, you know what, there's another... this is another opportunity to like move on to another spoiler.
Yes.
We have a new fire monster. Digger, do you want to read that particular fire monster to our group, to our chat?
Sure. So the fire monster is a goblin. 1 cost monster, obviously, from Mobius and 11. When goblin enters the field, you may search for 1 job goblin and add to your hand. Not bad considering some of the other goblins in the past were kind of neat. Tap goblin, put into the breaks and choose 1 forward, deal 3,000 damage. It's the tap ability is kind of a little underwhelming, but based off, like I said, by some of the other goblin cards in the past that are cheaper otherwise, like an ice or whatnot, it can be kind of funky, like a little bit of a gives you a resource and everything. It's it's like that that one was a 1 or 2 cost ice flan where it's pay 1, tap it, search for a card named Flan.
Yes, there was a flan of that version, yeah.
Yeah, so I look at it as kind of like that, where it gives you like a bit of a extra. You're basically paying 1. So you're paying 1, get him out, he gets you a card. So you're technically only paying 1 to get him. And he can just do extra little gimmicks too. So you can search for another one of him. You can search for other stuff. I haven't seen a lot of goblins used in the past because obviously there wasn't a whole lot. But with this card, it might look like there's a possible on the horizon a small little goblin engine.
So the cute thing about this card is, so it specifically says when goblin enters the field, you search for 1 job goblin. So there's a litany of job goblins. One of the more useful ones is Princess Goblin. So Princess Goblin is from Opus 12. Its job is Goblin, and when it enters the field, you may search for 1 light forward and add it to your hand. So synergy-wise, I mean, if Masharu was still around, this would have been a viable way to make sure that, use a tutor and then find a card, which would have been really, really, really spicy. But we do have a considerable amount of goblins in multiple colors. I mean, we have some in earth, we have some in ice. So this could be used as like a really efficient CP fixing engine. So if you're running a dual color deck, and you typically need to find, I don't know, let's say ice CP, you can find a goblin with an ice CP, which is pretty, I mean, that's, how do I want to say, that's like pretty useful, especially when, I don't know, if you're running 3 colors, there's a goblin in lightning, so being able to find that goblin or the one in earth, I mean, being able to CP fix, especially in a deck that like runs 3 colors, is like super, super, super good. So yeah, this card actually might see a little fringe play, especially in like multicolor decks if they really are looking to CP fix. So yeah,
there might be a
pretty interesting card.
Yeah. I actually hope there might be like a little forward or whatnot that interacts with goblins because before Black Mage started to become more of a forward heavy with like the Black Waltz as is the current set, there was like maybe 1 or 2 forwards that interacted with the Black Mage card. So I was like, okay, it's not. I see this kind of neat, but it's not really much of a useful engine. And then the Black Mage engine became a thing.
Let's think about decks like, for example, there was a new ninja that was spoiled, right? And notoriously, ninjas were multicolored. So, for example, if you were stuck on CP of, let's say, lightning, and you run this goblin card, and you know that particularly you have a goblin of lightning, it just allows you to be able to find that color in an already difficult deck to color fix outside of Edge. So it's just like another value piece. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to break the meta, but ultimately there's an option there to finding, key cards, particularly within different elements. So on that, one of the new cards that was spoiled was the new Yugiri. So I'll read this card.
Yep.
It's a 3 CP, 5,000 power forward. That is a ninja. I believe it's category 14. And when Yukiri enters the battlefield, you may search for one job ninja or card named ninja other than a card named Yukiri and add it to your hand. You may discard a total of 2 job ninjas or card named ninja and then choose one forward of 4 less and break it. So I quite like this card for ninjas.
No,
I mean,
can
I
agree
like
with
the
that.
way that it's. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say I agree with that. That's
Oh yeah. I particularly like the fact that ninjas are particularly getting a little bit of love. I mean, I liked the old ninja package when it came out. I thought it was very, cool for a tribal deck, but one of its like notorious downsides was it was very EX deprived. So having a new forward that could be run 3 of as a tutor for Edge, or ways to find your backups when you need them for your ninja decks. This is a slam dunk, like a home run in my opinion, especially at its rarity, because it's not very high up there, but it reads kind of like a legendary card, so it's pretty cool.
yeah. The fact that I look at it as discard 2 ninja or card name ninja, like job or card name, for 4 cost or less. I look at that as you remember the Opus 1 Odin from 13, category 13.
Yes.
4 costs, summon, lightning summon, choose a 4 to 4 cost or less, break it. That I read that similar to that. So you're paying for whatever. It doesn't have to be lightning, for instance. You can just pay 2 of ninja essentially to break something, and that's without swinging. That's without tapping. Just discard, break.
Yeah, it definitely has like quite a bit of like vitality to it. I mean, I could definitely see this card going for the long haul. Alrighty. Well, I mean, particularly in that card, is there anything else that we want to add to
Well,
Yugiri specifically?
well, I'm not, I'm a little bit. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I just kind of wanted more to ask questions because I'm a little bit new to the game, so I never
Sure.
really played ninjas and everything. So you've said like this Yugiri is lightning, edge, which is one of the best ninja cards, is wind,
Yes.
and maybe Maki is water. So
I thought Maki
so how
was
does it work for the colors? What do you think
So-
about all of this?
Edge notoriously. So, I mean, this is assuming that we're going to be using the 2 CP Edge.
Yeah.
But that 2 CP Edge allowed you to play ninja cards at a redux of 1 CP and for any color. So
Oh.
it meant that you could run multicolored ninja decks. Like there were quite a bit of synergies amongst ninja that without Edge would have never seen the light of day. So cards like this specifically make cards like that 2 CP Edge even more viable. Specifically because now you have another way of tutoring them. Now you have another way of tutoring your win cons. There was a 5 CP ninja that was multi-element named Gesho that allowed you to look at your opponent's hand and make them discard a card into exile, which was very, very strong. Because if you've ever seen our 3 CPs, the Dane, that allows you to discard or target your opponent's hand, that card still sees competitive play. So being able to play Yugiri for maybe 2 CP of whatever element that you want, go tutor this Gesho, and then drop a Gesho, means that you're removing your opponent's uh, threats in your hand, and I mean it's much more of a toolbox card in my opinion. And if you happen to have that CP afterwards in your hand, like let's say you have two ninja cards, and after seeing your opponent's hand, you know that they're not going to have the tempo to essentially remove your board next turn. You're free to like maybe on their end step, ditch two ninjas and then break one of their forwards. That might be problematic for you. I mean, that's quite a lot of tempo. So yeah.
Yeah.
I guess so. I guess it's a segue here. So we
Mhm.
talked about the French nationals and the locals.
Yes.
We talked about some of the spoilers, which
Mhm.
is really good to be honest. Um,
Hmm.
maybe we can talk about different locals, so to speak, just that we've noticed. Because I know on the breakfast chatter we talked about the U.S. locals.
Hmm.
Um,
So particularly in France, Haru,
Yeah.
is there like a couple of like locals that um, you particularly have heard of? I mean, like let's say I'm an American and I'm looking to go to France to play. Where might I find some of these fellow Final Fantasy players?
Well, the best way, the most active town is definitely Paris. We are lucky
Okay.
enough to have like one LGS that organizes locals every week,
Okay.
and the other one that organizes it Friday every 2 weeks. So
Okay.
that's crazy. And you have regionals quite often as well. Obviously not now. So I feel really, really blessed to, to live in a city where you can like go to your locals like that really easily. A lot of people don't have this chance, and yeah. So for example, with this you can have like all of the monthly promo cards
Hmm.
easily. This is like a big plus as well. And
Sure.
the what I love about it in Paris is that those LGSs are really, really centrally located. So
Okay.
that's really important because if you're in London, there are some LGSs, but they're not that central, you know. So it can be quite difficult to access. So if you're like an American coming in Paris, you can definitely like bring your card and we'll be like really happy to play with you. You know, like it's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. So if I was going to look like for example, if I was going to look for the shop, what is the name of the shop?
Yeah. Okay. So you have two shops. One is called Majestic Games,
Okay, Majestic
and
Games.
the other it's the one that makes like the locals every week, every Tuesday, and
Sure.
the other one is called Package, which makes like the Parkage, which organizes the locals Friday every 2 weeks. And those two shops organizes like also magic tournaments, Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments. I think more than once, one time per week. And we
That's
have
awesome.
we have other LGSs that organizes a lot of like Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Flesh and Blood, everything. So in Central
That's
Paris as
great.
well, yeah. Yeah, the
Yeah.
so
So, and again, you said that the Paris scene is fairly like competitive. I mean,
yes.
so if I were to visit, like I'm assuming like I better bring my A game, correct?
Oh no, I mean you can like no, you can play casually. People are really really nice. That's the thing. Honestly, like the community is just amazing. People are just so nice. If
That's great.
yeah, if you come here like you will play. Even if you want to play a fun deck, something to try, really like you will be more than welcome to. You don't need to like well, if you want to show off and like being like
Sure.
play your best scatters deck, maybe you can come as well. But no, you just do whatever you like. Honestly, people are really chilled,
That's
and
awesome.
yeah. And I feel really blessed because like without this community, I definitely wouldn't have like gotten like seriously into the game because like they were so nice to give me so many advices on what to play, what not to play, comment on my games, and all of these things. You know, like it's yeah.
No,
And by
that's
the way,
great.
yeah. Yeah. No, it's
Oh,
yeah.
go ahead. You
I
were
just
gonna
want to
say, by the way.
yeah, talking about the community thing, this is actually how I really got into the game. I was just working into an LGS, one of the two one, the package one, and I just saw a display of like Opus 16, I think. Yeah, it was Opus 16. I was like, what the hell is that? Final Final Fantasy trading card game? I've never heard about it. I was really intrigued, you know. I was really intrigued, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna crack a pack. Why not? And and as I said to you, I'm a huge fan of Final Fantasy, and like I really love the artworks and everything. And like then the LGS owner talked to me about like the community of FFTCG, and like he really told me good stuff about the community, and also gave me advices. And he told me like yeah, you should contact them and everything. And this is how I was introduced to the game. And if I wasn't introduced like that to the game, like without people guiding me in the LGS in the community, I wouldn't have like been that invested in the game. No way, because there are not that many things online, informations, you know, what you buy, what not to buy, even how to play. It's like yeah. So the
Yeah,
community aspect is really important.
no, I agree wholeheartedly. No, that's
Mm.
great to hear. I mean, I'm glad that you're, a part of our, Final Fantasy group. It's definitely
Oh,
wonderful having a perspective that,
thank you.
we
I
don't
got it.
relatively hear from, especially
Yeah.
from, the Europe area. I mean,
Mm.
outside of certain, groups on YouTube, we don't really get to hear about how the locals play. So that's cool to hear.
Mm. Yeah.
All right,
So
Digger, do you
how
have?
is it where you live? Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say, Digger,
Yeah.
do you have anything else to add to that?
Oh, about well, about hearing what other locals
Yeah.
tend to play and everything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, no,
Maybe.
yeah. I mean, Haru wasn't here during our discussion for, how our U.S. or Canadian locals play, but I mean, I'm sure, particularly being able to, hear his perspective might give you some insight, particularly on how your locals, differs. So,
It's very much of a welcome news or just even word of mouth. It's very welcome to hear all how different areas are running things, or just how the players are, or what type of decks they're playing. I think it's a good thing, to be honest, because even with Canada and U.S. or even Europe or England or otherwise, as much as we are connected, there's a lot of things that community and community leaders tend not to say or publicly say or let out. So like nothing bad, but it's one of the things where it doesn't seem to be on like the hey, I want to post something about how well we're doing and what our player base is doing and what our player base is like. It's not really on their list of going post about. It's more, hey, we did this well. So it's good to hear something from a local player where, at least for me, I haven't heard too much of how the local scene in France is comparatively to like Italy or England or whatnot, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's welcome. It's very good and welcome news.
Yeah, hopefully we get Haru back
Onion.
on
Yeah.
another time so that we can, definitely go more in depth about,
I'll make
future
my
stuff. Like maybe new, maybe we can even do like a deck list segment where we chit chat
Yeah.
about, why we're running certain cards and why, what we're playing against that made us make the decision for it. So.
And hopefully we can have Onion in the next one, so that he can
Yeah.
talk about us about Italy. I'm really curious to hear about how the scene is in Italy.
Yeah,
that'd
I
be good.
definitely would find that very interesting as well.
Yeah.
Alrighty,
See, and,
well,
yeah.
now that
Well,
we've kind of gotten to our lovely pleasantries, Digger, is there anything else that you would like to add to the conversation?
There are a couple things. One I could just leave at the end, but
Sure, sure.
the one I would like to kind of mention, I know I play on the NA group and whatnot, but there is as viewers can see in terms of like the screen, there is the Ontario Seasonal Series that's happening this weekend actually,
Hmm.
which I
Do you
think
want to explain that to for those who may or may not know? Do you want to explain that to them?
Sure. So the Ontario Seasonal Series, I'll explain the gist of it. And I'll go into like a neat little backstory. The Ontario Seasonal Series is a set of tournaments, 100% community run, by the way, with support of like the shops that help it, which is fantastic. That happens 4 times a year, so uh, winter, spring, summer, fall, and then repeat each year. We have it, so usually it encompasses people from like all over if we can. Even U.S. players are welcome to come by if they want to. Um, on entry is like $25 currently to pay into the tournament. On entry you get like a goodie tote bag with our logo on it. You get goodies in there like a plexiglass art coaster, sometimes stickers, deck dividers. That's just on entry.
Okay.
Then top eight or nine, depending if we have if we're able to get the extra stuff to make them. Get an extra get a custom deck box with art on it. Then top 3 would get either a plexiglass trophy, acrylic trophy, or a 3D printed trophy, whichever we're able to get our hands on at a decent enough price if we can.
Okay.
Currently, for this Saturday is 3 plexiglass trophies. So the art for first place is the Mikute male female characters generic from 14. Second place is Heian. Actually, the same art that's on the spoiler is being used for the second place plexiglass trophy.
Yeah.
And then third place is another plexiglass trophy that is a generic samurai, actually, like the job samurai art. And then also top 3 will get a custom playmat with custom art on it.
Oh, that's really nice.
And depending if we have them extra, some custom Final Fantasy themed dice, as well as promos.
Awesome.
But yeah.
Nice.
So like I said, almost if anyone wants to come out, they're welcome to. If we get more people than the shop can technically fill, the shop does have access to set up a patio setup where we have a way to block the wind, the rain, etc., so they can play technically in a patio outside setting. Now, the initial one didn't look great during the first set of reopenings during the pandemic. Didn't look great, but it worked.
So it sounds like you guys have quite the amount of prizing then.
Yeah.
So slight little backstory with this. I know I've said a few times in the past, but slight little backstory is when it first came out, like the first year, we were hearing in Canada, we were hearing about, oh, there's this regional, there's that regional, blah blah blah, in the States and Europe and everything. I was like, I wonder. So I thought of the idea of going, why not? Why don't we, as a Canadian community, try to make like a community-run regional until whatever time that we get a regional, like an official one. And by the way, this all started in my head when I woke up when I was at KubaCon. I woke up with a very, very, very bad flu. So bad that it was the second strand of H1N1. Yay. So I'm doing all this, by the way. So I'm setting all this up preemptively and everything else, getting the building blocks set up and everything else, while sick. That whole most of that month, I was doing everything like a chicken with my head cut off while sick. It got to the point where, well, now my boss, not then but now, at the shop, took my car keys and said, "You're sleeping Like they had a couch or whatnot. So I was like, you sleep on the couch, but we don't care. You're not going to drive, and we're going to feel responsible. Sleep on the couch. Okay. They literally took my keys. But long story short, it was a slog and a half to get it going, and it's been going on now almost the same amount of time as Final Fantasy's been out.
That's great.
Yeah.
And I would assume you know, if anybody is looking for information, they might be able to find that information online. Is there a specific place, you know, for our listeners who may or may not know? Is there somewhere they might be able to find the information for your tournaments?
Oh yeah. We do have a Facebook page with all the info and whatnot. We also stream either on this page here or on the Facebook.
Okay.
There's also Twitter. I could just link all in the chat if I need to. But we do use a Twitter to promote it. There is this Twitch. There is our Facebook page, which is the primary place to find it. Now if someone doesn't use Facebook per se, there are other ways to search it.
Okay.
I'm still working on some of those other ones.
No, that's understandable.
So, I forgot to mention. So the art that the viewers are seeing is the summer art that will be used for first place playmat. And each year is going to be an updated playmat with updated how like the character looks updated. So next year's playmats are going to be the same character but a female version of it. Yeah, it's basically our mascot, a Dark Knight Behemoth.
Oh, that's great. Well,
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that the Canadian community has like you know, some sort of regionals or you know, monthly thing to look forward to, especially on a, you know, on like a very heavily you know, prized event. It sounds like.
Yeah, so
So,
what? So how I want. So originally I wanted to feel like emulating a regional, like an official regional, kind of emulates a bit to give people like, hey, this is kind of what a regional does. If you want to do a regional, that's fine. And if you want to do this, that's fine. But I've got to the point now where it's like, you know what? The OSS is basically a community regional, and it's a good in between. So people bring their competitive decks or otherwise, play them, and if people just want to get better at the OSS and everything else, they can. Or if they think they're ready to move on from the OSS, go on to official regionals, based off their experience from the OSS, then they're more than welcome to. I take pride in going. I'm kind of the in between.
Well, that's great. I'm glad to hear that specifically. I mean, hopefully, in the future, do you guys have any? We were just talking a bit about like maybe doing like streams. Do you guys have any plans of doing streams of those particular tournaments?
Yeah. Well, yeah. We usually I'm going to see if I can either stream it this Saturday on this Twitch channel or on our Facebook page.
Awesome. That sounds great.
Now, if the listeners are listening to the background music of the podcast here, yeah, that's technically the the OSS's theme song playing as well.
Cool.
Sorry, I'm just doing like a little bit of plug in there.
No, it's quite alright.
Is there anything else that? Because I know in the past I've seen US try to do someone similar circuits and whatnot. Either they took off or
Oh yeah, no, we have so here in the States, I mean every locals is primarily different, and usually the shops are organizing a majority of those events. But to speak about some of like the PA ones, one of the shops that are around here runs a fairly, you know, monthly tournament, kind of akin to yours. It doesn't have as much like maybe like personalized items such as like mats or anything like that, but they do, you know, do cash prizes, and they also have, you know, a litany of like, you know, promos and packs that are available for, you know, depending on the placing that you pull. Outside of that, we do have our larger tournaments. I mean, we have some of the larger communities like the RVA and um, even the Delaware, New Jersey, PA pages that are all via, or their information can be found via Facebook. They fairly run, tournaments. I'd say maybe 2 to 3 times a month. They usually get a pretty good turnout. So, uh, I mean, anybody in the states who are within the tri-state area is more than welcome to join those. And again, that information can be found on, some of the Facebook groups, such as the Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware page, or Final Fantasy North America. They do post quite a bit on those, so it's definitely stuff that happens fairly commonly around here.
Okay.
Plus, our scene is very much akin to kind of like the French scene, where we have quite a number of competitive
Yeah.
players. So we get to see like quite a good vetting of the meta here in the States. So.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah.
I guess so. From that, that is this type of a different media segue. Um, in terms of Final Fantasy, is there any sort of other Final Fantasy media or median or whatnot that you think probably should be in the card game since it's Square Enix IP owned, right? So.
Oh yeah. Well, that's
Yeah, unfortunately, I might be in the minority of players, but I've actually only played one Final Fantasy before. I kind of came into the game. I think I said in one of the previous podcasts, but I'll reiterate it. I came into it from having a strong Magic background, and a friend of mine who had played quite a bit of the Final Fantasy titles. Mentioned that there was a card game, and I liked the mechanics after playing some of the starter decks. So I got into the game that way, and that was around Opus, I want to say 4. So yeah, unfortunately, I still haven't, even though I know a huge amount of the card pool, I still haven't played any of the games. So yeah, unfortunately, I'm like maybe the worst person to ask.
What about you, Haru?
yeah. So your question specifically is, would I like any other characters from the Final Fantasy?
Or just any of the Final Fantasy like IPs that
Or
Square had, maybe like,
oh yeah,
or maybe like
okay,
near characters or something like that, right?
that's a really interesting topic that I want to talk about. I have so many things to say. Well, I would love about to see all the characters from Square Enix. I think it's a must. Is it possible for legal reasons? I don't know, but I feel like it's a must because very soon, well, not very soon, but there will come a time where we will run out of characters from Final Fantasy. We will run out of artworks to use,
Yep.
and it's a problem because like you can't use like 2 cards with the same name unless it has the logo to allow you to do it.
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah,
a
it's
good
a
point, yeah.
problem. And so I hope that that people won't get bored of the cards every time the same name. Maybe they're gonna do like a different color, a different element, a different thing, a different artwork, but at the end of the day, it's gonna be the same character. So the first license that comes to mind for me, of course, is Dragon Quest.
That's actually not a bad choice.
Because Dragon Quest, like, I mean, I want a slime card so much. There's so many
Yes.
things you can do with it. Like, and Dragon Quest for me comes first because like it is the other like most iconic series of Square Enix, and it's completely owned by them. I think that it will be the one IP that would like create the less legal problems, I would say, to add for copyright and everything.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Oh, what I was going to mention is like that will be awesome. Don't get me wrong. I Dragon Quest characters into the game will be amazing. The only thing I can say about it is
Mhm,
that
mhm.
if they start doing that, then that's a rebranding of the Final Fantasy card game in general.
That's the problem. That's the problem. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know.
Um.
Yeah, that's.
Sorry.
Mm.
Uh,
No, you're absolutely right. That's a huge point. That's a
yeah.
huge point. Mm.
Though I'm kind of in the fringe minority in terms of adding this IP into it,
Mhm.
but based off my own deck's title, I'm a huge fan of the anime. Is Final Fantasy Unlimited.
Oh, I never heard about it.
It's kind of it's kind of cute, but kind of interesting as well.
Mm-hmm. Ooh.
So, by the way, Nobuo Uematsu did compose the opening and the ending of the show.
Oh, he's my hero, so
Yeah.
I will watch that.
Um, it's like a 26 episode series. So,
Mm.
long story short, the premise is these kids had their scientist parents go off to another world, basically, Wonderland as they call it. So instead of the generic of isekai being transported, they choose to take that mysterious train that goes from any place that it chooses and brings them into that area. So the kids choose to get onto that train, and it takes them to Wonderland.
Yeah.
And they get followed, blah blah blah. But then comes a key character in the lore, which is cloaked, a man cloaked or whatever, has like a it's kind of like the back with like the edge lore type of theme at one point back in the day. um,
Yeah.
Kaze, he has it's like looks like something metal on his arm. When it decides to activate, it turns into a gun, and he uses elemental soil, 3 bullets to put into the gun, fires it, and those 3 soil bullets merge and create a summon.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I can see a lot. I can see a lot of synergies in the game.
Yeah.
Like,
especially it's just like that's why I named my deck as it is, because it meant to emulate that whole thing of cast it for free, do a big thing, and boom.
And as I can see, they have cute chocobos, so more chocobo cards.
Yeah, they also have a chocobo with an battle armor too. That
Ooh.
makes it fly and everything else. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Now that you bring it in, because like it's the Final Fantasy canon thing. So new
It's
characters,
yeah.
great ideas. Yeah, that's a good idea. Mm.
Now that's just me, and most people like. Some people get the reference when I list my deck online, but like one person years back
Mhm.
ended up saying, "Okay, I get that reference, but why is there no characters with a gun if it's called a Ma gun?" I'm like, fair point. But that's my thing. Now there are other medians that I'm like, hey, this will be. Don't talk about that one. I.e.,
But like,
we're not talking about the movie that shall not be brought up.
oh, I actually want to talk about it just right.
I'm making a joke, but it's.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. Yeah.
I mean, you can
You
bring
know,
up spirits within. That's fine, but I'm just like, in the generic of almost all the Final Fantasy fans, it's from all the other shows and movies. We're like, this one shouldn't be.
I mean, it nearly killed the company.
Yeah.
It was such a flop. It
Well,
nearly killed the company.
how I view that movie is, if they didn't put Final Fantasy logo on there, we'll have been fine. It's a good standalone movie.
It's true. There are so many,
Yeah.
so many such cases.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to
yeah.
explain the premise of this film because unfortunately I have never heard of this before.
Well, honestly, honestly, it's
I can explain it.
this will deserve a whole episode because there's so many things to say about it, but
I can get to bullet points of it as best I can.
Yeah.
Just also be thankful that you haven't seen it fully. Expecting it to be a Final Fantasy, let's just say that. So, the world has kind of been shot to crap. Then there's trying to find life, like actual natural life, but because that world is now infested with spirits or something, that they touch you, you die, blah 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 blah. And so there's a scientist and military and government, all this other stuff that tries to say yes you can, you know you can, and they're trying to find the secret of these spirits. As time goes on in the movie, the military tries to do, like in every generic movie like this, does what military does best, going, kill a thing with firepower. That didn't work very well, and then he had to do something else, and it was like, the only relation is A, the title, and B, there's a top scientist named Sid. Out of everything in the movie, those are the only two relations to Final Fantasy.
So then nothing else is canon.
No, not really. I mean, like I said, the movie itself, if you want to watch a movie, go ahead. I think it's on like Netflix or something. But go in there knowing it's not really connected in any way, shape, or form to Final Fantasy. Go in to watch it thinking, is this a good standalone movie? That's the best way I can describe if you're going to go in and watch it if you haven't seen it.
So when Haru said like it nearly killed the company, do you want to illuminate me to like how those two things
Oh my
correlate?
god.
I can say stuff like that. So basically, there was a time when Square Enix was getting a little bit too bold in terms of projects they wanted to put the Final Fantasy label on, blah blah blah, and they made more than one bad choice. As Haru said, some of the choices almost killed their company. Now this is back when I think when they were Square Soft. It's not Square Enix.
Yeah. This is actually the reason why they were bought by Enix.
No, so that was a merge. So Enix was originally
But you know, merged. I thought it was a merge, but it was more like Enix taking control. Like I think like the main shareholder now of Square Enix is the guy who actually like created Enix. You know, it's more like it's a merge, but you know sometimes in like a merger and acquisitions.
Yeah, well, this was like a full merger as far as I understand. But at the time, SquareSoft was slapping their Final Fantasy title on a couple things that Final Fantasy should not have been titled as such. Now, were they great content on their own? Yes, they were. But it wasn't the best choice to slap the Final Fantasy logo on them, in a sense.
But then. Excuse me, I don't mean to like continue to interject. I'm just trying to like follow the train of thought here. So, if I got this correctly, Square Enix is technically made up of two companies, right?
It's like a merger.
Squaresoft and Enix, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So then, which one made the movie? Was it Square Enix
Square.
Squaresoft. Actually, a different company made the movie. Squaresoft was the one who said, "Hey, we like this. Slap Final Fantasy on there. Here's the rest of the funding."
So then,
essentially,
the movie did. I'm assuming these things. The movie did so poorly that it hurt company sales. How did it?
Yeah,
just
pretty much.
It cost a lot of money to make. Like, it was like, and it wasn't just the movie. They had like this huge ambition about the series, which honestly I think is such an admirable thing to have. Like, they had such a vision for what Final Fantasy could have been. They wanted to be more than a video game and everything, but it was too much. It was too much for that time.
Yeah, essentially, the movie had graphical, like, it was ahead of its time graphically.
No, it was so much ahead. Like, it's crazy. Like, it's honestly like, yeah. It's I mean, you're gonna look at it now. Maybe you're gonna laugh, but you have to think that 20 years ago, that was like wow.
Right, and so. Like Square Enix now, if they're doing movies, that makes sense. They're doing what usually a lot of trends are doing. But back in the day, video game movies had kind of like a standard, even though there wasn't really much of a standard for video game movies at the time. Really? Yeah, so it was they were treading on travel on explored water essentially.
Yeah, that's really nice that you mentioned it. Like, you really have to put things back in the context. As you said, back in the days, I think video games didn't have like this luster or prestige to it. Like nowadays, if you're gonna say there's gonna be a movie adaptation, of this video game, you're gonna say okay, whatever. But back in the days, it was really ambitious to make a movie about like a video game franchise and a serious one, not just like a joke like the Super Mario Brothers, you know, or like Street Fighter with Van Damme, you know, like.
I mean,
They were,
to be fair
yeah.
to Super Mario Bros. And whatnot, they're better than Dragon Ball.
Yeah, yeah. Oh god.
But that's a whole other topic. But basically,
God,
other
yeah.
mediums like a movie, like
Mm,
maybe the previous Kings from Kingsglaive from the movie
mm.
could. I know the other characters have made it into the card game, but maybe the Kings, like the Spirit Kings, could make it in or something like that.
Particularly the IP for Final Fantasy. Like
Yep.
in general, we're talking about like we just want to see cards that are attributed to the games. But that being said, like Haru's mentioned earlier, like there's only so much space with like card titles, like card names, and I know, you know, for some of us who have been playing for a while, you know, we get like a Zidane card like almost every set, and like after a while, like you have to choose which Zidane that you want.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that being the case, I mean, what do you think their? I mean, this is kind of a segue, but what do you think their reservation towards using like more niche characters or you know more lesser known games? What do you think that reservation, or where does that reservation come from?
Well, that's the
Well,
legal aspect. No. You mean within the Final Fantasy IP?
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, just like, you know, for
Well,
example, we were just talking about like
then I,
Kingsglaive and like the kings that are from that series. Like, what's their reservation towards just making unique cards specifically towards like, I don't know, giving why did 2 CP Zidane that like exiles a card from your opponent's library need to be a Zidane? Why couldn't it have been like a, I don't know,
because be, be, be-
pick a
because be,
pick a
because
character?
Zidane is such an emblematic character. So if you do that with some character that is less known, I don't know, people are not gonna like love it as much. Like personally, like I find it hilarious that Zidane is like actually like a thief in the game, and it reflects so well his personality in the video games. Like he can steal cars and do stuff like that. So
Even
if
though
you do it, you know.
by Lord Zidane in the video game is kind of a really big failure of a ladies' man. He really is. He tries so hard, and
Yeah.
then the girl that is actually caring
Yeah.
about him and everything else confronts him. He's like, he gets all flustered. It's like, oh my god.
So yeah,
Primarily, I mean, when it comes to like design, like
yeah,
we're only allowed like so many cards within our
yeah,
deck that have, you know, certain names. Like, you know, we
that's a
can't
big
have
problem.
the yeah. So that being the case, I mean, like don't get me wrong, Zidane is like a lovable character, and like I know a lot of people like have quite the attachment to like him
Mm.
as a character, but at the same time, like you know, you kind of design yourself into a corner where you know
Right.
you can't really play this Zidane because you can't run it with this
Yeah.
other Zidane, and unless I'm
I think
playing
it's,
Something with a
another format
special.
like Title,
I think
yeah,
it's a
it
big
just
problem. It's a big problem.
yeah. So I
Um,
mean, I
it,
that's why
This
I'm
is
asking what
why.
the
This is
reservation is.
this is why I think we should have other IPs. And like honestly, I feel like slime or characters like that honestly are way more emblematic and way more how do I say, like Final Fantasy like, than some characters like Macheri that I have no
um,
relation to because it's from a mobile game.
oh, that actually
You
brings
see
me
what I
to
mean?
other. So they're releasing a
Yeah.
card from another IP, which is Final Fantasy, which is perfect that they're going into this now. I just need to find it here.
Hmm.
It's one of the Turks from Crisis Core,
Mm.
but it's like the artwork. But they haven't touched on Before Crisis yet. And
Oh.
that was the Japanese only mobile phone game at the time. Now it's being re-released
Yeah.
with the bundle that's coming out soon. But
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. You're gonna have new cards,
it
and
had
there's gonna be the. Hmm?
it would have characters like the leader of the Avalanche, like the actual leader of the Avalanche. which
And
might
there's
have,
gonna be like Final Fantasy 16.
yeah, 16. So characters
That's
like
nice.
Clive and all that stuff will be added. But I'm talking about like
Mm.
in terms of like for the Turks, there's yeah, who the F is the name? Yeah, right. um, so the thing is with the before Crisis, it was chock full of characters. Like it was chock. It had Red 13's actual girlfriend slash wife.
Mhm.
The lead. By the way, the leader of the Avalanche, she was able to go toe to toe with Sephiroth on par to where nothing was getting done. This is before Sephiroth went nutty. So they
Yeah,
both clash, and it's like
uh,
nothing's happening. So it's like,
By
yeah,
the, no, by the way, but I think we should put some spoiler alerts because maybe Queen Jin played the game, so I think it would be
we
a great
couldn't.
thing
We no, Europe and US couldn't at the time until recently when it's coming
because
out
yeah.
because it was a Japanese only thing. But it's
No,
been
I
like,
know, I know. But no, I'm just saying we should be careful when we speak about Final Fantasy 7 because I would really really like Queen to play this game, the remake, and
oh, and
if
Rebirth and all that
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
That's actually going to be tricky.
Mm.
So the only reason why I say that is that Quinn, would you want to play OG7 and then go on to remake and whatnot, or will you play remake to go back to OG?
No,
I
would,
mean-
yeah.
Personally, so the way that a story unfolds for me, I would need to like start at the oldest point. Oh, the only reason I only say that is because uh, in the continuity of how things work, I would have to know about like little intricacies like I mean like I know who Cloud is, but only because he's like a huge character. But
Yeah.
I mean like if I didn't know who Cloud was before you introduced some of the other characters like I think Zach is his name,
Yeah.
like it just I don't know, it would feel like the continuity wouldn't work. So I mean I would normally say like I want to start from like the very very beginning, like start me from wherever Zach was, but then I would lose out on some of the intricacies that like the original game kind of
Because
gave.
honestly, like you should just honestly like buy the remake. You can buy it for cheap, I think, if you have a PlayStation.
Yeah, I
and
think
just
it was
play it
free
on,
on the
yeah.
PlayStation Store.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it
So-
was even free. Yeah.
I think if you want to start with first one, I'll say go with OG7, which you can get on PlayStation, and
but
then
you know,
and then go from there when it's out. Crisis Core,
yeah,
which
but
explains the
pro-
Zack portion, and then
the-
you go. Sorry.
No, I would absolutely agree with you, but the problem is that dude, like the OG7,
Yeah.
I love it, but you know the graphics are really outdated, and it might be off-putting for a lot of people.
Yeah, what year did that game come out?
1997.
1997.
Yeah, so I mean we're
Magical,
talking
yeah.
we're
Yeah.
talking about like
Almost 30
pixel
years.
art.
No,
Yeah.
it was Polygon actually.
But
Okay,
honestly,
Polygon.
honestly, I would say the best thing. I would buy the Final Fantasy X remaster.
Hmm.
I think the graphics are nice. It's really like an OG Final Fantasy experience. The story is amazing. I think you would love that game. Honestly, I would say you begin with this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean like I again my introductory into the Final Fantasy
Mm,
like universe was primarily through the card game, which is like
that
kind of
sounds
backward.
crazy to me.
But
that's
when it
completely surreal,
comes
but
to
it's
like
interesting.
yeah, when it comes to like if I'm looking at the card game specifically, because there's so much rich lore. I mean that's how like I found out about cards like Renoa or cards like Locke and like their interactions with each other. I mean like yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure the more detailed like synergies, like the emotions that people have to those characters are very important.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like there's a point where I don't want to continue playing with like new locks. Like
Yeah.
sometimes I
No.
want new cards of different names so that I can
Absolutely.
play
No,
them
you're right.
amongst with
That's a good problem.
my like locks that I like. So
Yeah.
I mean, like, yeah, maybe that's selfish because like
No, you're
ultimately,
right.
everybody needs like new updated cards, but
No,
at the same time, like I need variety in my decks, and
same.
if Ice's best removal at right now for monsters is, I don't know, let's say it's just lock. I mean,
Yeah.
that might be like a sweeping generalization, but let's say it is lock, and then I you know need to run that card, but I can't run the other lock that works better with the new engine that comes out, that like paints me into a corner. So I really need there to be like a variety of characters, so that I don't have to like just say, okay, there are two locks and I have to pick and choose. Either I get the monster removal one that also dulls and discards, that works with storm, or do I use like the comes in, makes your opponent discard, and if I punch some lock, they discard a card. Like, I don't want to have to make that choice too often. And like with cards like Zidane, or like I feel like we get a lightning almost every set.
Yeah.
It really starts to paint me into a corner when it comes to like
And
designing.
even as a big Final Fantasy fan, I agree with you.
Yeah.
It's annoying.
So that's why when I hear you guys talking about like all these lovely IPs and all these titles and all these attachments to like old games and like how they made you feel, like that's all valid, and I agree that's like 100% of why people really fall in love with like card games, is like that attachment to characters. But when it comes to mechanics, like the Final Fantasy universe has so many characters and so many what I would almost consider like background characters,
Yeah.
that they should really be printing. Like, if you really want to play like a, I don't know, like a Final Fantasy VII deck, I should have like almost every one of those characters that you can think of that's attached to Final Fantasy VII with their own card. The same with like
So
Final Fantasy IV, Final Fantasy III, Final Fantasy, I don't know.
So when you said
6.
other background characters for 7, I realized 14, Final Fantasy 14 character from as in the card game is primarily a joke quest in Final Fantasy 14 is Hildebrand.
Yeah.
So
But that card, even when Hildebrand was printed, he was so consistent at having haste and being an attacker. He actually saw play for the longest time.
Yeah.
So that's like a great instance of where a unique card could have fit into like any combo of decks.
So the reason why I'm saying as such
Yeah,
is the
so-
character. Sorry.
Oh no, I was gonna say the reason why I find cards like that really valuable is because it means like, oh, okay, if I want a really good body that has haste, I'll just run Hildebrand, because Hildebrand is like unique in that he gets haste from a backup. Not that he's like the best card, but like just humor me for a minute. Let's say I really want to play Hildebrand, so I'll play Hildebrand in my deck, but then that doesn't keep me from running other hasted cards, like, I don't know, the lightning from, I don't know, back in the day that had haste and like dulled a guy when she swung. Like, if lightning and Hildebrand were like the same card and they were both called lightning, then I would never have played like the Hildebrand card.
Yeah.
I'm using air quotes, but you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
I need that variety of like card pool and card name in order for me to be like, okay, well, this lock is really good, so I'm just gonna run one of that lock, and then I can run a bunch of other cards that have lock-like abilities in my deck, so that I don't like brick and then just have like 3 locks in my hand that I can't do anything with.
Yeah.
Like,
So
yeah.
what I was going to say is that like the Hildebrand point is very valid, and when I am thinking about a joke card, but also is very useful, Haru, I think you can see shenanigans with this character, Johnny.
Johnny.
Which one?
Yeah.
Which one's Johnny?
He's from, well, he was mentioned briefly in the OG as like a random side character, but they really played on his side character a lot more in depth in the remake. It's have you played remake, right, Haru?
I have yet to play the remake. I played the beginning.
I mean, he
But,
was.
uh,
He played the
I
beginning of
played-
remake.
No.
But I mean, he's kind of in the trailer a bit here and there. He's like pretty much in like once you get past the reactor, he's pretty much in the beginning.
Oh, Johnny.
Yeah,
I thought
Johnny, yes.
I thought Johnny like John.
No, like Johnny,
Oh.
like the goofball
Okay.
Johnny.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I was like, what?
So they got
Yeah, yeah,
Roach in the card game, which he's
yeah.
pretty useful because of his lore, which makes sense. But if they add Johnny, I can see that being such a niche, quirky little card that it could be useful
Yeah.
just to throw your opponents on edge because you just do ability like, why did you
Mm.
play that? What? And it just screws with their head because he plays such a quirky card, but it's
Yeah.
useful. It can flip the match on its head.
Yeah, yeah.
Almost quite literally in times because of Johnny's actual lore.
Yeah. But
So another card that I think will work wonders if they do this thing with Hildebrand, with the Hildebrand card. He does have a family in 14, which is comedic gold. His father, via lore, is the owner of the Golden Saucer in 14, and he's a huge master craftsman. But he also kills giant chimeras with a goldsmith hammer. Just a single hit, dead. It's like, what? To the point where he's so strong he can, like, quick step via bleach style to his son in an instant, pick him up, go into the atmosphere, and suplex him back down to the ground, and Hildebrand's fine, and his father's just doing a little dance. It's like, what? So I could see it being just like a fun little mechanic, but have it funny to play, but strong enough if you know how to make it strong, and it will be comedic gold to play and also useful to play in. It's like, oh, this has so much potential.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to cut you guys short, but unfortunately, that my time is probably going to be up in a couple of minutes. I got some dinner plans to attend to with my wife. So
Okay. I guess
it's
the last thing I'll say is actually there's I'll do this quickly as I kind of ramble
yeah,
on a
sure.
little
Go
bit.
ahead. Yeah.
So Final Fantasy 14 community did, with the help of a music composer, Alex, I can't pronounce his last name, did a community, basically music choir and he put it on YouTube with 1,800 plus people taking part, that submitted, ended up only being 1,400 that took part in it, and 1,000 people were on screen.
Wow.
With huge names in terms of music and otherwise. And so that all happened. And yours truly took part and is featured twice as like one of the extra community members. I have 2 spots on the video that I'm
Oh, that's awesome.
on. Oh yeah, and it was actual singing choir, so yes, I did sing.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Nice.
Well, hopefully we'll be able to see it on your channel. I mean, I don't know if you'll upload it.
Oh yeah,
But if you do,
it's uploaded on my channel. Well, it's not uploaded on my channel, but I did upload my reaction onto my channel to it.
perfect. Well, then I will have to take a look once I get a bit of time. But
Yeah.
it does sound pretty cool. I mean, especially with that amount of people. I mean, hopefully,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
yeah, hopefully it made you feel somewhat accomplished in your singing endeavors.
I didn't. Yeah. So, but other than that, thanks Haru and Quinn for coming out, and
Thank you.
hopefully, we'll be able to meet up on the Sunday as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
hopefully.
sounds great.
And with that,
Okay.
hopefully everyone enjoyed their time, and we'll catch you on Sunday of the next podcast.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
one.
Bye.
Bye.